So at least Cromwell didn't mind us living in Connacht. These don't seem to want us to live anywhere. I don't know where they intend us to live, but it is absolutely demoralising to see a report like that coming out.
And that's your news at 3:02.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Treat yourself to a city break in Marrakesh, Riga or Stockholm.
This evening will remain generally dry and cloudy. Isolated patches of mist and hill fog may also develop in light southerly breezes. Lowest temperatures of 4 to 7 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Don't miss Liverpool versus Everton in the Merseyside derby on Monday Night Football. Live only on Sky Sports.
This is News Talk.
And this is Off the Ball Saturday until 5. John Duggan with you. And this is Football Saturday. Remember, Off the Ball. Football brought to you by Sky. Get all the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. We're streaming the conversation. You can listen across the country on News Talk. Also watch us on the digital channels, YouTube, Facebook, the OTB Sports app and Twitter. We're joined on the line by the former European Cup winner and 5-time league champion with Liverpool and the ex-Ireland international Mark Lawrenson, and in studio by the Irish Independent football correspondent Dan McDonnell and the Cobh Ramblers manager Shane Keegan. You can text us 53106. Dan and Shane, how is the form?
All good, JD?
Yeah, good.
You all looking forward to the league next week?
Ask Shane about that. I mean, I'm looking forward to it because there's no real pressure on me. Shane
hasn't slept in about...
Shane's down in Kerry next Friday. Shane is down for the grand opening of
driving all the way down to Tralee just to cheer me on.
Oh, so yeah. I want to see Shane Keegan. It's not about the new league, the new kid on the block that it's all about. But look, Shane was playing pre-season games last night against Cork City, so he's immersed in the football world in a way that we're not really, JD.
Yeah, looking forward to it. All right, JD. Really, really am. It's kind of my first time going into a League of Ireland season as a manager in my own right, with my own staff, my own players, my own pre-season under my belt since 2018. So it's been a while. I've been in a few different other roles, but there's not like been the main man. Really looking forward to it getting going. Yeah.
What are your ambitions for the season?
I suppose, look, we were rock bottom last year, so you have to be somewhat realistic. But it's a strange division in that there's 10 teams in the division and 5th gets you a playoff. So I suppose realistically, we would like to head into the final round of games with the potential to try and sneak into a playoff spot as still doable, if that makes sense. And I think if we do that, that'll mean you'll have crowds on a regular basis, and I think everybody will be happy. If you could pull it off from there, then all the better. But we'd like not to be heading into the final round of games with our season done and dusted, if that makes sense.
Lara, how's the form?
Yeah, good. John, thank you very much. Got one eye on the rugby. Sensational, isn't it?
Yeah, no, and so do we. Ireland against France in the Six Nations. 19 points to 16 Ireland lead at the moment, and plenty of tries going down Lansdowne Road way. Mr. Moyes, your pal, 1-1 draw against Chelsea. Is he enjoying life as a manager still, do you think, Lara?
Yeah, he enjoys it because he's left alone, basically. And he said the main man, obviously they lost.
David Gold, sadly, yeah.
David Gold, didn't they? But he said that the main man is actually better with him when they're not doing particularly well rather than when they're winning. So work that one out. So, yeah, he's all good. He thinks he's turned the corner lately, and obviously some of the results have been, some of the results have been a bit more positive. I think they'll be absolutely fine. They won't get relegated, West Ham.
Yeah, brought a good few signings into the club, like Nakata and... I haven't seen much of Skamuka, but Antonio's back in the team now.
He's not played much in the end. They've obviously lost the midfield player today. Looks like he might have dislocated his shoulder. Paqueta, yeah.
Yeah, but the good thing is Aguirre, I suppose, has been a positive. And you would have saw a bit of him at the World Cup, Dan, wouldn't you?
Yeah, he was terrific at the World Cup. Well, I say he was terrific at the World Cup. I mean, he was good at the World Cup when he was able to stand up and play. Yeah. You know, like he sort of... You know, he was trying his best to play on through, and they missed him a bit later on, but you could definitely see... I mean, you could see why they signed him. I guess it's a very obvious thing to say, but you could see his ability and clearly with a bit of a clear run, how his ceiling could be reasonably high, you would think.
Is there a danger with the World Cup, because it's so exciting and we're all invested and the whole world watches it, Dan, that the way players are assessed might not be comparable with their actual ability. Like Enzo Fernandez's example, like he's a world superstar now just because Argentina won the World Cup, he had a good tournament, and now he's been seen as this guy who's going to be leading Chelsea for the next 10 years as the engine room man.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's obviously leading them for the next 10 years because they have to make his contract that long so they can sign him. Like that's obviously a separate thing. But I didn't see all of the game today, but you were sort of watching him at times, like, you know, taking on that responsibility at the base of the midfield, and you're thinking, wow, like, you know, this is someone who went for a much smaller amount in a very recent period of time. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure if clubs in their scouting and their recruitment are that impulsive now. There was obviously a time when the major tournaments was when you might see a player and sign him. You think of like Poborski and various players that spring to mind who spring to prominence. They get signed and maybe it doesn't work out. I think now any top level club that doesn't have an awareness of every player before the tournament starts, you know, they're not doing their job rightly. Now, clearly, like, you see them in a pressurised situation, you know, it definitely like puts a premium on the price of certain players, you would say, but you'd be surprised if a team just decides to sign players on the basis of 4 or 5 games. And I take your point. It's like tournaments are, you speak to people who've been involved in them, and tournaments can be a sort of an alternate reality. You know, some people are just in the groove at that time. You know, the schedule of games short and sharp. They're playing for their country. You can elevate them. They can just bring them to another level, and it may not be reflective of how they would approach their sort of a 9-month club season. But I don't know. I feel like it's less likely people will dive into rash signings off the basis of it. But when I take your point on Enzo Fernandez's price, he wouldn't have been that price without the World Cup being in December.
Big time. We're watching Arsenal-Brentford here. We'll keep you up to date on the Premier League games kicking off at 3. But it is half-time now at the Viva Stadium. Ireland leading France. Andy Dunn.
Well, wow is all I can say. Arguably the most entertaining 40 minutes of rugby at international level that I've ever seen.
Wow.
I'm not saying that lightly. It's hard to summarise. We've scored 3 tries. We've probably left 2 or 3 behind us. We've dominated in terms of territory. 70% approximately within the French half. But we haven't always had all the possession. France have been hanging on by a thread. France have made huge mistakes deep in their own territory, and the game has become frantic. The ball is a bouncing ball in their own territory, and it's caused them huge problems. But it also led to their wonderful breakaway try, a brilliant opportunistic finish from within their own 22, multiple switch plays and passes and support runners, really the kind of French flair of old. But overall, in terms of what Ireland have constructed, is 3 rather wonderful tries, all different in their makeup, and left another couple behind them. Hugo Keegan opened the scoring with I suppose a pre-planned move from a ruck where Finlay Beelan, playing a tight head prop, imitated his predecessor Tyke Furlong with a wonderful inside pass and set Keegan free from about 30 metres, and he meandered his way through with a couple of French chasers. The next try was again a brilliantly constructed team try, multiple phases, and sweeping wide move from right to left saw James Lowe acrobatically finish in the corner, both legs in the air, multiple reviews on the TMO, and he was given the try. France replied with an 80-metre breakaway try of great fluency, and then we've scored one in response to that, with Andrew Porter in close, digging around about a metre out, multiple phases. Hard to fathom how it's only 22-16 to Ireland. France hanging on by a thread, but absolutely wonderful entertainment.
Rugby and Off the Ball with Vodafone, main sponsor of the Irish rugby team. We all belong to the team of us. So Andy, what's the message of the dressing room right now, and are you confident? You said 10 to 15 points before the game. Are you confident we can finish the job?
I am. The remarkable part of this half of rugby is that France haven't actually created anything against our defence. They've made so many mistakes deep in their own territory that it's actually caused our defence to become fractured. With the level of hunger we've chased that breaking ball, we've actually lost a bit of integrity in our defensive line, and France have broken once or twice. But that's not necessarily them creating anything by design. It's their opportunistic reaction to our hunger in the chase. So I would say the message at half time is try and maintain the integrity of our defensive line, because otherwise they're not creating anything. And in attack, it's just more of the same. We've been phenomenal in attack, so threatening in so many areas of the field. So yeah, that half-time message has probably got to be a bit more discipline in our defensive line, and certainly less kickable penalties in our half for Ramos, who's nailed 3 out of 3.
Okay, Andy, thanks so much for the moment. Half-time there, Ireland 22, France 16 in the Six Nations. Back to Andy in the second half for updates as things progress. As I said, West Ham won, Chelsea won in the Premier League. Shane Keegan, you watched a bit of it. Once again, Chelsea score, João Felix, you're thinking they're coasting, they've all the possession, but they didn't finish the job with a win.
No, they didn't. Look, it's a club with an awful lot going on at it at the moment, isn't it? I think looking at the starting lineup, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that half the outfielders on the pitch for Chelsea that started the match were signed during the January transfer window. Right. Like that is I can't ever remember it been that high before.
I actually flicked over to the game and I was like, oh, João Felix, I forgot they'd signed him for a minute, because he obviously got sent off. I was like, oh yeah, João Felix. And it's like, how many players have they signed even since him?
Yeah, well, you're expecting João Felix to be at the door, aren't you?
Yeah.
Is his time up yet? Yeah, no, I think centre back.
You're too old. You're
centre back, centre mid, and
like the toys of Christmas, isn't it? Yeah, the toys of Christmas.
But no, they were good. They looked good in the first half without being outstanding. They had 2 goals disallowed through VAR in the first half, but they were probably correctly disallowed. But they're just, naturally enough, they looked a little bit disjointed. They looked like a team who had 5 new players into the starting 11. I mean, that's not just going to automatically click no matter how good the players are. Mudryk's initial appearance when he came on, who did he come on against when he was electric? Was that Liverpool?
Liverpool, yeah.
Yeah, like he was brilliant, and I was like, geez, can't wait to see this fella. And he clocked, did you see that? He clocked the fastest time of any player, 24 kilometres an hour he moved at apparently in the Liverpool game, which is the highest any Premier League player had this year. And I was expecting huge things from him, but he was poor now. He was taken off with a half an hour left, and then just the goal, Reece James was absolutely terrible. He just completely and utterly switched off for it, and they ended up getting away with it in the end, John, because West Ham had a goal disallowed by VAR right at the end, and again it probably was just about rightly, but one of these ones where CH goes across, the player's going nowhere, makes a stupid foul, and in fairness to the commentator says straight away, like, you know, that will infuriate his manager, because the only way West Ham look dangerous here is on set pieces. In comes the cross, Souček back of the net, and they got away with it because of a VAR decision. But it's a bit all over the place there at the minute, John. They have, I don't know if you saw that, they have the guy in from New Zealand, Gilbert Anoka.
He's the guy that know dickheads rule.
That's from the fella who coined that phrase. Yeah. He's come in on a consultancy basis, I think, for the next couple of months. It's going to be interesting to see if he can have some sort of a positive impact. I've kind of followed his work a bit since he came to prominence, so it'll be interesting to see if he can do anything there, because it's, as I say, it's just a little bit all over the place there.
Laura, if you're Graham Potter, not an easy job. Laura?
Sorry, you've gone, John. You broke up there. Say again.
Graham Potter doesn't have an easy job. Where do you begin?
I mean, it's a real tough job. But listen, I believe everything the boys are saying. But why didn't they sign a striker? You know, all the players you go out and sign, and I think, you know, obviously they would appear to be very good players, or will be very good players in terms of the younger ones, etc. Why wouldn't you go and buy a striker? It's the most important position in the team. I just don't get it. And you know, somebody having a striker and João Felix playing off him, they would be really, really good. I mean, the first half, there were 2 offside goals, but they were very, very close. West Ham were a little bit in a mess in terms of letting them when to run and let them run, etc. So, but it's a striker thing, and I think Graham Potter will be okay, because I think there's enough people around there saying, look, you can't sign all these players and automatically think within the first 3, 4, 5, 6 games it's all going to fit in. They're not conceding many goals, which is a bonus for them. But, yeah.
Laura, do you know who I would have loved to seen Chelsea go and just test the water and see what sort of response they would have got? I would have loved to seen him go to Fulham and test the waters on Mitrovic. Like, he would be transformational for a team like Chelsea.
He would, but I mean that's like Everton taking Mo Salah in terms of, you know, Chelsea, Fulham. I think they'd have closed the ground at Fulham if they thought they'd sell Mitrovic to Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, it's a goalless between Arsenal and Brentford. We're watching it here. Evan Ferguson back on the Brighton bench today against Crystal Palace. And Nathan Collins not involved for Wolves against Southampton, Dan.
Yeah. It's a slight concern. I mean, Wolves are obviously in a bit of bother, and they're in a relegation fight. They've signed Craig Dawson. Max Kilman has stayed on the side and probably is in a back four. He's probably the left-sided back four member, and Collins has lost out. I mean, it's like, I wouldn't get carried away over it. Like, he's Nathan Collins is 21, 22. It's his first season as a real, like, established in the sense that he's expected to start every week for a Premier League team. At Burnley last year, he was still sort of behind their first choice there for most of the season. And there's going to be bumps in the road, and there'll be times when a manager decides to maybe take you out of the firing line. Like, obviously the fact it's a new manager, it's a new signing coming in, it's not ideal. And I mean, at times, I think for Nathan Collins, I mean, from what I've seen of him this season, like, you can see in games his general level of ability is very high. He's had a few difficult moments at times in fixtures. It seems on occasion like he doesn't make many mistakes, but when they do happen, they get punished. And clearly the manager has decided to just go for a slightly more, I suppose, seasoned figure in there to maybe get them through a situation. But I wouldn't be overly concerned. But clearly, that's 2 games. You know, if it becomes 12 games, or 7 or 8 games, and you're getting in towards March from an Irish perspective, and Nathan Collins hasn't played since January, then it's a bit more of a concern. But I mean, you don't know what's going on. The manager, for some reason, has come in and has decided, in a sort of a firefighting situation that they're in, that this is what they need to do. They've won last week. They've had a great performance. So you're not really going to mix things up too much off the back of that. But it's more the 2 or 3 games time that you're looking at things going, does this really mean something or not?
Yeah, so Fulham have just scored against Nottingham Forest. These are always subject to VAR, but Fulham always good at home. Craven Cottage, Willian with the goal. West Ham 1, Chelsea 1, as we said, full time. Arsenal 0, Brentford 0. Arsenal looking to bounce back after the defeat at Everton. Crystal Palace 0, Brighton 0. Southampton 0, Wolves 0, as we said. And Spurs have scored away to Leicester. Rodrigo Bentancur with the goal. Where will Harry Kane rank, Laro, in terms of the great strikers after that record was broken last week?
Oh, he's way up there, isn't he? And, just look at the quality of the goals that he scores as well. And this is a lad, John, who I think he went to about 5 or 6, maybe even more, 7 or 8 teams on loan.
Yeah, maybe not that many, but there's enough. There was Millwall, there was Norwich, there was Leicester. Yeah,
there was plenty. So and I think I read an article about him the other day, and I think one of his first loans where he was actually begging the trainer to come back in the afternoon with him so he could concentrate on his finishing, etc. He's a good lad, and you can just tell he's very, very honest. And look, I wouldn't mind betting he'll probably top Shearer, and Shearer will absolutely hate that. But he will, honestly. He'll be crying. But I think he could do it. And could you imagine if he played in a team that made loads of chances? What it'd be like?
Or won things. Yeah. His first goal, as we know, Shamrock Rovers, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it was.
Remember when I was chatting to you guys the night before I was heading across to Spurs and Arsenal. Obviously Arsenal beat us that day, but I was hoping, John, I could have been one of the very few people who could have said that they could have seen Harry Kane's first goal and Harry Kane's record.
You were there as well. You were at the Shamrock Rovers
game, and his first opportunity to break the record then would have been the Arsenal game, but unfortunately he had to wait a couple of weeks longer. I genuinely think he's actually still underrated. I still don't think he gets as much praise as he deserves. His level of consistency is phenomenal, and his assists, John. Normally fellas who score that many goals are pure goal scorers. I'd love to know how many assists has Alan Shearer had. Probably an easy enough way of finding out, actually. But I know Harry Kane is close on 50 Premier League assists in addition to the 200 goals, which is just absolutely outstanding. I mean, I keep saying it, but imagine Harry Kane playing at number 9 with Harry Kane behind him at number 10. He is one of the best number 10s in the game as well. He really, really is. He's outstanding. He's absolutely outstanding.
In the Championship, Burnley 1, Preston 0, so they're flying, Burnley.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Cardiff 0, Middlesbrough 1, Coventry 0, Luton 1, so these are games going on in the Championship with goals in them. Is this a worry for Arsenal, this wobble at Everton, or just a blip, Laura?
Oh, just a blip. I I had a bet with somebody that Everton would beat them at home. It was all set up for Everton to beat them because, you knew they would raise the game. You knew they would be in the faces of the Arsenal players. And I don't think throughout the season, really, that Arsenal have played a team like that, revitalised Everton on the day. Well, it remains to be seen, obviously, on Monday, if they'll still be revitalised. But I just thought it was absolute nap. And there was a little bit sort of from the Arsenal players, you can't tackle me, you can't do this, you can't push me over, and all those kind of things. It was just that classic sort of, Sean Dyche performance, get into them, get the balls into the box, which in all honesty, they could have won easier, couldn't they, in the first half, the heady chances that they could have had. So, but now they'll be fine. And for once, I thought the manager's quite cute in what he said. He loves his players and all those kind of things. So they'll have had loads of love this week. And I know they're 0-0 with Brentford, but I would expect them to turn that over today.
Yeah, goalless at the moment. Dan, this news about City during the week, is this just... Does it put the integrity of the competition under a cloud? I know you're arguing in the paper in the Irish Independent during the week that, this other clubs are just as elite. I don't know. You can explain why.
Listen, my point is, and it's sort of there's layers to this debate. Clearly, right? If City are found, I suppose if the charges are found, but it's independent panel, or if they're sort of proven, or if they're brought to a case where there's punishment is needed, if their accounts were falsified or not presented accurately in some way, well then of course throw the book at them, and that should happen. I don't know what form that takes. It would need to be more serious than a fine, because a fine is obviously meaningless to them. So I don't know where that will go, and does that lead to sort of massive points deductions? And if that's the case, then that's the case. They can't probably argue with them. The only point I was making was that I understand their rivals are naturally miffed, but this sort of cloud has been over City for some time. You go back to sort of 2011, and people were rightly raising questions about their sponsorship deal with Etihad at the time. It was in the firing line, but there was obviously question marks about sort of related party sponsorships, and I suppose this issue where you have a state, with powerful resources, as we know, and a club very closely affiliated with that state suddenly coming in with this unbelievable spending power, and at the time there was Liverpool and Arsenal and a few clubs raising concerns. But then I suppose over the next decade, at various times, it's sort of City's presence suited them. City and Liverpool went in together to they were 2-4 in negotiating for the top six to get a bigger share of the overseas TV revenue. As we all know, in the Super League project, the six clubs were at one point content to consider the idea of breaking away. So rather City being this pariah figure that everyone had sort of concerns about them and wanted nothing to do with them, I think at times their might and their power would have been welcomed. I think City and the money they've brought to the Premier League, even the presence of Pep, some of the spending that they've done has probably played a big role in the Premier League's rise to its sort of current position of dominance over all the leagues in Europe. So that's my only point around the piece, and what I was arguing was that have City been terrible for the Premier League? Should they be stripped of all their honours? I don't know. I think if clubs would, if they weren't in train with the other big six at certain times on certain issues, I don't know. It's if they get punished, if they get done, they should be met with a very strong sanction, and I'm not sure that they can complain. But clearly, a lot of other clubs have been probably quite happy and have got rich and richer off the benefit of City and what they've done for the Premier League over a period of time as well.
Leicester scored twice in 2 minutes through Pabi Mendy and James Maddison. 2-1. They lead Spurs now, and Southampton now lead Wolves by 1-0 in the Premier League. Southampton right down the bottom. Carlos Alcaraz, a new signing with that goal. Bournemouth kick off against Newcastle 5:30. Fulham 1, Nottingham Forest 0, Crystal Palace 0, Brighton 0, Arsenal 0, Brentford 0, in the Premier League. In the Championship, goals going in: Bristol City 1, Norwich 0, Burnley 1, Preston 0, as we said, and another goal, Sheffield United 1, Swansea 0, that goal just going in. And obviously the second half now beginning to get underway at the Aviva Stadium between Ireland and France in the Six Nations. It's Ireland 22, France 16 going into the second half. Andy Dunn, our man there at Lansdowne Road, for all the updates. 45 minutes in the watch, still the same score, 6-point lead for Ireland. We're back after the break with Lara Dan McDonnell and Shane Keegan on Football Saturday.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Catch Leeds versus Man United tomorrow on Super Sunday. Live only on Sky Sports.
This is News Talk. Moncrief.
Someone says Brett sounds like what the Big Lebowski might have become if he'd gotten his act together. On behalf of fans of the dude, I find that phrase offensive. I think many people would argue that he did get his act together. Indeed, that the dude represents a template for humanity that the rest of us still have to evolve towards. That's what I think.
Moncrief.
Brought to you by Avant Money.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on News Talk.
From the morning routines to cosy family moments, Grant has been bringing comfort to homes for over 45 years. With our biofuel-compatible condensing boilers, heat pumps and underfloor heating, you can trust Grant to heat your home now and into the future. Think heating, think Grant. Visit grant.eu.
Do you remember in college when the bank used to give us free lollipops to sign up?
And we stuck with them for our savings and mortgage.
And guys, because of your loyalty, they're still licking their lips with delight. And you're potentially losing thousands on higher interest rates because you don't have a financial plan.
It's not so sweet anymore.
You, my friends, are in the driving seat. At Ask Paul, we're here to guide you through your financial journey. Whether it's your mortgage, savings, investment or pension, Ask Paul provides advice you can trust.
Where do we go from here?
Just Ask Paul. Visit askpaul.ie.
Fairstone Asset Management Act Trading is Fairstone and Ask Paul is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
We're sorry to inform you of yet another delay. No, not the train this time, it's John. He's delayed getting his eyes tested. If he's accidentally sat in your lap, knocked over your suitcase or kissed you instead of his wife, we can only apologise. John has now been informed that eye tests and glasses from the €69 range at Specsavers are free with PRSI or medical card, so there's no need to delay booking an appointment. Find out more at specsavers.ie. John, can you get off my lap?
At Screwfix, we're committed to giving you unbeatable value. We've cut prices to help you save, like €20 off the DeWalt T-Stack storage system, now only $25.95. And save over €25 on the Airbarra drill kit, now only $69.95. Get your job done for less. Shop now online at screwfix.ie or in over 30 stores. Screwfix, the choice of champions. While stocks last, prices valid until at least 4 p.m. on the 5th of March. Visit screwfix.ie for T's and C's, delivery charges and restrictions.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in the community. Keeping up to date with your recommended vaccines will make sure you have the best possible protection from serious illness. And everyone aged 18 to 49 can now get a second COVID-19 booster vaccine from a HSC vaccination centre or a participating GP or pharmacy. See what vaccines are recommended for you on hsc.ie or call our team in HSC Live on 1800 700 700 from the HSC.
InsureMyVan.ie. Hi, I'm Ken Doherty. For all van drivers and business owners, InsureMyVan.ie is Ireland's low-cost van and commercial insurance specialist. For high-quality van and all commercial insurances, call InsureMyVan.ie.
City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as InsureMyVan.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Island's Edge Stout is less bitter, and so is Alana Rourke from Dublin. Alana.
Well, my so-called best friend Emma knew I liked this guy Eric, but then she asked him out before I could. And 2 years later they were married.
Ah, no.
Yeah, but I'm not so bitter about it now.
Well, that's good.
Especially since Eric ended up ageing like milk left out in the sun.
Yeah, we're going for less bitter here now.
And the kids. Oh, the kids, right?
No, sorry. Thank you, Alana. Okay, thanks for sharing. Island's Edge. It's better, less bitter.
Get the facts, be drink aware, visit drinkaware.ie.
Aldi's
Play Rugby sticker promotion is kicking off again. Collect official Irish rugby stickers every time you spend €25 in Aldi. Help fill your local primary school's poster for a chance to win €50,000 to upgrade the school's playing facilities. And scan your sticker for a chance to win your weekly shop. Now that's a win-win situation. Start collecting now. Aldi, official fresh food partner of the IRFU. Details at aldi.ie/playrugby. Promotion runs until April 23rd.
Want an amazing deal from Virgin Mobile? Get unlimited data, calls and texts and enjoy 99.7% coverage across Ireland. All for just €5 a month for 6 months. Sale ends soon. Switch in-store or at virginmobile.ie. Virgin Mobile. Bring on amazing.
SIM-only contract €25 a month after offer. Cancel anytime on 30 days notice. Ends February 15th, 2023. For details, T's and C's and acceptable usage policy, see virginmobile.ie.
This is an emergency appeal from Concern Worldwide. Families in Turkey and Syria are struggling to survive in the aftermath of 2 devastating earthquakes, and freezing temperatures are making their situation even more desperate. Please help Concern provide blankets and shelter to those most in need. Visit concern.net today and give what you can. Thank you.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Don't miss Liverpool versus Everton in the Merseyside Derby on Monday Night Football. Live only on Sky Sports.
This is News Talk.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through to 5. This is Football Saturday. Remember, football on Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Get all the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. You can text us 53106. Joined on the line by the former Liverpool and Republic of Ireland defender Mark Lawrenson, and in studio by Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent and the Cobh Ramblers manager Shane Keegan. Keith Long, the Expos boss, will be with us after 4 to look ahead to the League of Ireland. In the Premier League, it is Fulham 1, Nottingham Forest 0, Willian. Leicester 2, Spurs 1, Pappy Mendy and James Maddison after Bentancur put Spurs in front. Southampton 1, Wolves 0. Mario Lemina has just been sent off for Wolves for a second yellow. Carlos Alcaraz scored the goal for the Saints. Subject to VAR, Brighton have scored away to Crystal Palace. Estupinan has scored at Selhurst Park. It's Arsenal 0, Brentford 0. The match we're watching at the moment at the Emirates, and earlier on it was Chelsea who drew 1-1 away to West Ham. In the rugby, 50 minutes on the watch. Ireland 22, France 16 in the Six Nations. Johnny Sexton off with a leg injury. Ross Byrne on for the final half an hour. Just in terms, Lara, of Monday, the Merseyside Derby, Liverpool-Everton, is this a good time for Liverpool to be playing Everton? They've been so poor in recent games. Do they want a good atmosphere on Monday night to rise the troops again?
No, I don't think it is a good time for them to score, to play them, John. I was at Molyneux last week and we were speculating on the team about an hour and a half before the game, and I just said to the guy I was with, I said, I think it's time for Phillips to come and play. You know, he kind of head-it, kick-it centre-back that played a lot in lockdown, etc. And lo and behold, in the first 10 minutes, I mean, they were so poor at the back, Liverpool. The 2 centre-backs were all over the place. And it remains a mystery why Henderson's not been starting. He's had loads of rest, so they can't say that he's tired from playing. So he's had loads of rest. And I think, you know, when you're having a bad time, you just need experience. You need experience. And at the very least, you know, get the first half of the game sorted where you haven't conceded. They're forever chasing. I mean, I've said to you quite a few times over the course of this season that the number of times they concede the first goal has been disastrous for them, and teams just know that if they get at them, and they get at them in midfield and overrun them, which is exactly what Wolves did last week, then they're in all sorts of problems. And all of a sudden now the goalkeeper looks shaky because he's not sure what's going on in front. Well, he knows what's going on in front of him. It's chaos. The 2 fullbacks have got to forget about careering forward and just be fullbacks for a while. And, you know, you've got to build on something. You can't sort of start playing football away from home like that and you're 2 up within 20 minutes. It very, very rarely happens. And I'm sure that Klopp's pulling his hair out because it's just going to be a real difficult game. I mean, there's a game within a game, isn't there? So there's Klopp versus Dyche on the benches because he had a little bit of a set to, I think, the last time Dyche was in charge of Burnley at Liverpool. And, you know, it'll be like an air raid, you know, in terms of the way that Everton will play. They will just launch it, Calvin Lewin, etc., people around him. They'll get tight on people, Everton. They'll be tackling like there's no tomorrow. I think it'll be an ugly one, to be honest with you.
I saw a stat during the week, Laura. I couldn't believe it that you just mentioned Alisson there. He's actually made more. He's actually denied more goal scoring chances than any other keeper in the Premier League this year. So as bad and all things have gone from defensively, it could be a hell of a lot worse. If he hadn't made a few saves, it could have actually been in worse again. And I agree with Laura. I really fancy Everton for that game. I think it's an awful time for them to play them. Everton are going to be up for it now. I think the confidence is going to be back. Their direct style obviously is exactly, you'd imagine, the way that to get at Liverpool, because they just don't look defensively confident in any way, shape or form.
John, if you'd asked me like 6 weeks ago who Liverpool's best player was, I would tell you the goalkeeper. But even that's deserted him now.
What about the injuries? How much of a factor, Laura? Van Dijk, Konate, Diaz, Jota's coming back possibly on Monday, but not insignificant.
Yeah. Well, Van Dijk, obviously, because he makes it easy for whoever plays alongside him. Konate's only been out for, I think it's his first or second game, so he's not been out for long. Matip's been out for a usual spell. Joe Gomez is the one that's a little bit infuriating because, you know what, I've worked it out with him now. In the big games, he's obviously got this 100% concentration, and he's really, really good against Manchester City. Who else at home? Chelsea, very, very good as anybody. And then in games where, let's say you play Wolves, and it's as though he kind of thinks, oh, it's only Wolves, and, I'm playing really, really well. As we know, you just can't do that. But, I mean, the two of them, himself and Matip together, were all over the place. They really seriously were, which... with Calvert-Lewin playing on Monday, I would bring Phillips in. I really seriously would, and just because he'll head it, and he'll attack it, and he won't be worried about playing. He'll just be actually doing his job, which is stopping other people playing.
Yeah. That goal, by the way, Estupiñán ruled out VAR, so goal is still Palace and Brighton. Is Klopp in this for the long haul? His contract goes to 2026, Laura. Is he in this for what's the vibe on Merseyside about Klopp and about the club? I know it's up for sale. A lot of brain drain in the boardroom as well. A lot of those kind of experts like Michael Edwards, those type of people like Julian Wilson, is that his name? Going as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, they've lost loads of people from upstairs. I mean, we all know how well the recruitment has been. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Klopp deserves to decide when he wants to walk away. I don't see it happening at the moment. I think he's subconsciously in his head, he's kind of written the season off. Well, the season basically is Madrid home and away now. So, but I think he's thinking if they don't get through that, and then it's waiting until the summer and see what they can do. And then, of course, as you rightly say about the owners, do they want just to sell a bit of it? Do they want to sell all of it? I think they want to sell all of it, to be quite honest with you. So he's kind of thinking a little bit, well, where are we going to be with that? Who in fact is going to actually own the football club? That'd be the next thing. Will he have any money? Yada, yada, yada. So, I feel sorry for him. I did the most stupid thing last week when after Wolves, and when I was driving back home, when I put one of the phone-ins on, and it's just like, oh well, he's taken us as far as we can go, and all that kind of stuff. And you think, oh my goodness, I mean, the fella's been unbelievable. He really has, and he would be the last person I would let go from that football club. I'd let all the other players go before he went.
Julian Ward, yeah, it's the guy.
Julian Ward, that's it, yeah.
But is there a vibe about, potential owners or who's might be coming in or anything? Like, you hearing anything?
No, I'm not hearing anything. I mean, everybody keeps whispering Saudi Arabia and all that kind of stuff, but no, I've not heard anything. And generally we get a little bit of a steer as it's happening, as it were, but there's not been anything.
Okay. What about Dyche? Can he keep Everton up?
Can he keep them up? Yeah, he can keep them up. And, he will play the way that he wants to play. Look, people talk about atmospheres at football grounds in the Premier League. One of the best atmospheres is Everton. And when they have got something to play for at Goodison, I don't know if you've ever been. It's horrible. It's great,
yeah. It's great. Well, Spurs won 6-2 there, but yeah.
It's great, but it's horrible. And you do really feel, generally you go to place and you play at Wembley and all that, it's not intimidating, it's great. But you go to Goodison and even worse when you're a Liverpool player, but anybody else as well. It's really, really difficult. And all of a sudden, because you know how close you are in terms of the stands, the pitch looks even shorter. And every time the ball comes to you, you just see two people running at you to cut you in half. It's a difficult place to go. So I think he'll keep them up, yes.
It's interesting, the ownership thing, isn't it, with the whole city obviously in the news this week, and the talk maybe the Qataris interested in Manchester United, Jim Ratcliffe maybe bringing American investment into it. The Newcastle fans seem to be happy with their owners now. You'd wonder, the United fans be as happy if the Qataris came in?
Look, I don't know. I mean, I think did I see John Aldridge writing a couple of weeks back about, you know, Liverpool just have to look that way, it's the way of the world. And it sort of like goes back to the previous point. I mean, like City have led the way in terms of showing people from that region what can be done through sport, you know, and sports washing, that would be it, of course. And, you know, Newcastle have managed to suddenly they're being propelled, elevated, and I mean, having been over in Qatar at the World Cup, and it was, you know, clear at that stage that there's no sense of the interest, you know, and the desire for like football power waning in any respect. It's the natural byproduct of it. To answer your point, John, in terms of would Manchester United fans be concerned, I think it's like a lot of these things. I mean, I think you know, Manchester United as a whole, like fans, you can't generalise them as a whole. Like they're not all on one sort of you know, on the one sort of hymn sheet as regards this stuff. Yes, there may be some who would raise concerns. There will be others who will be excited by the potential of being able to sort of compete better financially. Although to be fair, right, they've spent a lot of money financially, so you know, it's just they don't have the sort of the glazer suspicion over the owners, where, as we know, with the sort of the Middle East, there's a bottomless pit of money. They're not necessarily looking for a return on it because they're getting involved for other reasons. And there is no end to their wealth. I mean, it's like what Klopp did say it last year about Man City and PSG and Newcastle, that there is no ceiling for what they can do. And there will always be a portion of fans who will say, well, if they can get away with it, and if they've been allowed to sort of get through whatever, you know, criteria exist to own a club, well, then why shouldn't we have a piece of this? There would be people who would have a moral objection, but they probably end up not winning the argument, you know. So again, like this is the thing. We'll probably talk about Newcastle more in the coming weeks. Like they're going to have the excitement of a cup final, all this stuff that they've been starved of, and other clubs are just going to look at this and think, yeah, maybe this isn't ideal where it's coming from, but you know, we're starved of joy here. We want a piece of it, and that's what the Premier League has become, right? I mean, the horse is bolted with this, so everyone is playing by those rules now, and you can talk about it forever, but there's no way to stop it, really.
Yeah, Ireland have a penalty and it's over. Ross Byrne, 25-16, they lead France now, so a 2-score game, 59 minutes, and they watch at the Viva Stadium, going to Andy Dunn shortly. On United, they play Leeds tomorrow, our commentary game. Laro, Casemiro was missing during the week. They could feel the absence, but United, Ten Hag seems to know what he's doing, and Rashford just can't stop scoring.
Yeah, well, I mean, Rashford has been nothing short of outstanding, has he? And I know everyone's, you know, got this debate. Do you play him through the middle? Do you play him on the left? I still think I play him off the left because he just keeps on scoring for fun. And once he comes inside his marker, he's gone. And you're not going to get challenged in the penalty area. You know, the Ten Hag has done a very, very good job. We shouldn't have been surprised by Casemiro in what he's done, although obviously suspended at the moment. You know, you don't win all those major competitions with Real Madrid if you're a dud, do you? And you get to see now with Manchester United, and I think this is the most important thing. Not just the results, John, or the players. They've obviously got a dressing room that is completely unified, and we'd spoken all last year. In fact, most of the programmes we're on, we're always about, you know, Ronaldo, the dressing room, all those kind of things. And I just think you can just tell that they're a happy bunch. Came back from 2-0 down the other night, probably 4 or 5 months ago, they wouldn't have been doing that. So, whether I think they will get for the top 4, but I still think with them, they will need a striker. Well, they will need a striker. Everyone knows they're going to buy one in the summer, aren't they? But They'll look a very good team then.
Were Leeds right to sack Jesse Marsh, Lauro?
No, I'd have kept him. And do you know why? I watch Leeds all the time because it just amazes me what they do. It's just like bees let out the hive. They're all over the place. But in that game against Forest, I don't know if you saw it, they should have been 4 up at half-time. And I think that was actually quite a good performance. All right, second half ran out of steam a little bit, ran out of ideas. But I would have just kept him in for another couple more games. But long-term, no. Long-term, no. He is Ted Lasso, I'm afraid. He is. And, even some of the things he used to say after games and all those kind of things. And I just thought, if they just kept him for a couple more games, Bamford would have got fitter by the game. And he will score for them and would score for them. That's been their other problem as well. And defensively, they've been all over the place. But he's tried to rectify that with a couple of signings. No, I would have kept him. I'll still watch him because they'll still be mad for a while, won't they?
Yeah, no, I'm sure he'd deny that he is Ted Lasso. But just in terms of on Monday on RT, there's a documentary on the television about Liam Brady. It's called The Irishman Abroad. 50 years since he signed schoolboy forms at Arsenal. A man you played alongside, you probably know quite well, Lauro.
Yeah, good lad, Chippy. He was probably one of the best walking footballers I've ever played with. And if you watch Liam, he didn't have any pace. He had an unbelievable left foot, as everybody knows. But he had a way of kind of just shepherding the ball away from you. If you were playing against him, you could never really tackle him. But honestly, he could play walking football. It was that easy. Just a picture like the rest of us who played in those teams of the 80s that we didn't really get to go to a major tournament until later because on that stage Liam would have been brilliant. He wasn't Jack's cup of tea, as everybody knows, but not just an outstanding player, but also a proper bloke as well.
Was he vocal in the dressing room? Was he a leader?
No, not really.
The football did the talking, as it were.
Yeah, the football, but he'd pipe up and say stuff and what have you. But it wasn't a natural thing to him. And to be honest with you, we had probably lots of lads who had all had an idea and all put in the two penneth all the time. You got Mick McCarthy, Moran, and one of our Liverpool players as well. We'd all have our say. But no, it was That was another fab dressing room as well. That was a brilliant dressing room, and he basically was the leader of it.
Laura, I would have only really caught the tail end of his career. Like, if you're looking at the Premier League at the moment, what Premier League player would you say Brady was most similar to in his style of play or how he went about playing the game? Is there anybody in the current game that reminds you of him in any way, shape or form?
No.
Nobody.
There isn't. Well, his first thing is, it's like left-handed golfers, left-handed cricketers, left-handed footballers. They all look like they've got more time than anybody else, and they all look much better on the ball, whatever sport they're playing. Which obviously, Liam was that. I really don't know anyone, and one of the reasons I would say as well, I don't know about you boys, but when I watch football now, when I watch Premier League, and it's great, it's packaged, it's all that kind of thing. The number of times people go backwards without looking forwards is just drives me nuts. You're in midfield, somebody gives you a ball, I'll just give a safe ball away and maybe get it back. Liam was always, it went into his feet and then it was out, and he had his head up looking, and he knew where the ball was. He didn't need to have to look where the ball was, and he'd look to play somebody in all the time. And if he couldn't in the end, you could see the disappointment on his face. I don't really see anybody in midfield at the moment that I watch regularly. I would say, if you want me to really go to De Bruyne in terms of what he could
I was thinking
create.
Odegaard myself, possibly, yeah.
Well, I think Odegaard's a bit different, but De Bruyne most definitely. But De Bruyne he used to run at people, didn't he? Which Liam didn't particularly do. But in terms of vision and passing ability, and know when to pass and where to pass, and to pass to somebody who wants it in a certain place, not where you want to give it to him, that would be Liam.
And also remarkable that he went to Italy and he had the bravery, as it were, as I suppose at the time, because it wasn't done very often, to go to like Juventus, to learn the language, to win the title there, to win the Scudetto. When you're ranking Irish players, he's right up at the top. You'd have to think, Laura.
Oh, of course he is. And I don't know if I told you the story, because he ended up getting sold, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I know that it won Juventus in those days, the Agnellis, wasn't it? Yeah. And what happened was they had already decided, Juventus, that Platini was coming in, and so they were jettisoning, they were getting rid of Liam. And I do know that he got called into the office, and basically Signor Agnelli apologised to him and said, we didn't think you'd be as good as you have been, which was why we decided to take Platini. And let me put it this way, John, I think he was extremely well rewarded to leave Juventus.
Right. Okay. Well.
And did he go to Sampdoria?
Sampdoria, Inter, and then Ascoli. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was Trapp was the manager, wasn't it? It was Trapattoni who was the manager of Juventus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, will I be able to see that in England?
We'll find a way to get it to you, Laro.
All right. Great.
We got to think of the RT player. I don't know if we're able to, because we're not allowed access to BBC anymore, because I think it's some kind of geo-blocking thing or something like that. Maybe it's a Brexit thing.
It's the iPlayer thing.
We'll blame it all on Brexit, Laura.
I'm sure there's a way. We just can't. We won't discuss it on air. But there'll be a way.
Yeah. We'll find a way, Laura. We'll get the pigeon. Okay. We'll get a pigeon and a telegram, and we'll get it over to you in the next 6 months, I'd say.
No worries.
Laura, thanks, man. Speak to you soon.
All right, thank you. Cheers, guys.
See you, Laura.
We've got half times in the Premier League. Arsenal 0, Brentford 0, Crystal Palace 0, Brighton 0, Fulham 1, Nottingham Forest 0, Willian on the mark. Leicester have got a third against Spurs, and this one has come from Kelechi Iheanacho, so Leicester back on the bike after that win at Aston Villa. Southampton 1, Wolves 0, Carlos Alcaraz. And let's get the update now from the rugby. This is Ireland against France in the Six Nations. What's going on? Andy Dunn.
We're into the 67th minute. It's Ireland 25, France 19. It's been a very different second half to the first, which was so swashbuckling. Second half has been far more tired, I suppose, from both sides, which is understandable. The game is kind of laden with errors in this 20-minute period, and it looks very nervous and tense. It looks like it's going to come down to maybe one key mistake. As I'm watching, Ireland have just kicked the ball dead, as it seems, so nearly going to get a line out in the opposition 22, but overall a very different second half to the first. There's 13 minutes left on the clock. We're still winning 25-19, but both sides are tired and depleted with injuries.
Okay, we're in you wouldn't want to have too many nerves there. We'll go back to Andy then after 4 for the latest update on that Ireland-France game. 25-19, a score in it, so if France get a converted try, they're ahead, but let's not tempt fate. Rugby and Off the Ball with Vodafone, main sponsor of the Irish rugby team. We all belong to the team of us. Racing wise today, Betfair Hurdle at Newbury. How do I spell it? Is it Auchinarisk?
Auckland Risk, I think, yeah.
9-1, yeah. Nick Schofield ridden, Chris Gordon trained, and then the other two big races there, the Denman Chase, the Grade 2, Zanza 16-1, and then Funambul Sivila won the Game Spirit Chase 7-1. So if you had them in a treble, you're a lot
of shocks today, JD. Grenadine was turned over in that race, and Filey Bay, the Irish horse, was second in the Betfair Hurdle. Emmett Mullins, fancied favourite, big mistake at a vital time.
Okay, Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent, Shane Keegan of Cobh Ramblers boss, and Keith Long, the ex-Bohemians manager, will join us between 4 and 5 for Football Saturday as we look ahead to the new League of Ireland season.
We're funny creatures as humans. Impulsive, stubborn. We procrastinate for eternity and make decisions on a whim. Can we ever say with complete certainty where our choices are going to take us? Just remember, once in a while, we get it right.
You'll never take a wrong turn with Toyota, Ireland's best-selling car brand in 2021 and 2022. Toyota, built for a better world. Best-selling claim based on 2021 and 2022 most recently published monthly figures.
When my business grows up, I want it to be fast and agile, selling hundreds of bikes every day. There will be obstacles along the way. But with the right payments partner, helping me go further, I'll grow a little every day. Until
before I know it, my little business will be all grown up. Elevon. Grow into the business you want to be. Check out our offers on elevon.ie.
Elevon Financial Services DAC, trading as Elevon Merchant Services, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
At
Centra this Valentine's, we have great mega deals. Like Centra Fresh Irish Lamb Leg 1.2 kilo, only $9.99. Cadbury Milk Tray 530 gram, half price now $9.75. And Griffon Prosecco, Frizzante and Rosé, now €7 each. Smart choices, choose Centra. Centra, live every day. Enjoy sensibly.
Not sure where to start with your smart meter? Sign up to a Home Electric Plus smart meter price plan from Electric Ireland to see how much energy your appliances are actually using. Track your usage monthly, daily or even hourly and get tips and advice on how to use less. It's a smart start to controlling your energy usage. To sign up, search Electric Ireland Home Electric Plus. Smart meter and online account required. Features available after 4 months. T's and C's apply. See electricireland.ie.
With so much to see and do, what will you discover on a short break in Northern Ireland? You could wander the medieval walled city of Derry before exploring the awe-inspiring Giant's Causeway and Causeway Coastal Route. Dip into Fermanagh Lakelands or visit the historic city of Armagh. Dive into the depths of Belfast's Titanic experience, then lose yourself in the majestic mountains of Mourne. There's a superb choice of great value hotels and accommodation, plus exciting restaurants and nightlife to suit every pocket. And it's so easy to get to by car and by train. Book your great value short break now at discovernorthernireland.com. Northern Ireland. Embrace a giant spirit.
What's a giggly bit?
Air Gigabit Fibre broadband is our best ever broadband. Way better than cable. It's your own line straight to your home, so no more sharing with the neighbours.
Mrs. Murphy was on my internet. What is she saying?
Sign up today and get 1 month free. Plus, Virgin Media customers save up to €300 by switching to Air. Call 1-800-500-300-GO in store or visit air.ie. Offer subject to location and availability. 12-month contract. Setup fees may apply. T's and C's apply. See air.ie/save300.
The historic Killashee Hotel is the perfect place for your next getaway. Located just outside Naas in County Kildare. Embrace your inner foodie at our newly renovated restaurant. Enjoy the crisp country air while strolling through our elegant gardens. Pamper yourself at our award-winning spa or enjoy some retail therapy at Kildare Village. Most importantly, let our team take care of you. Killashee Hotel, the new chapter. Part of FBD Hotels and Resorts. Discover more at killasheehotel.com.
This is an emergency appeal from Concern Worldwide. Families in Turkey and Syria are struggling to survive in the aftermath of 2 devastating earthquakes, and freezing temperatures are making their situation even more desperate. Please help Concern provide blankets and shelter to those most in need. Visit concern.net today and give what you can. Thank you.
When you're looking for mortgage protection, VHI has the cover you need. With our 10% discount for members, that means mortgage protection from only €7.58 per month. Search VHI Mortgage Protection. VHI Healthcare DAC trading as VHI Healthcare is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland and is tied to Zurich Life Assurance PLC for VHI Mortgage Protection. Prices for a 30-year-old non-smoker for a 20-year term and mortgage protection of €237,000 with 1% insurance levy.
Newstalk's Business Person of the Month is your chance to showcase the brilliance of your colleagues, friends, or even yourself. Join me, Joe Lynham, on Breakfast Business to learn about the best in the business. Last month's winner in January was Angela Ennis from Ennis Safety Wear.
No matter how many obstacles you come up against, and I came up against plenty, just keep ploughing and believe in yourself, because you will get there if you keep trying hard enough and work hard.
Nominate the next Business Person of the Month by going to newstalk.com/nominate.
The Newstalk Business Person of the Month.
With Evershed Sutherland, Ireland's most established and largest global law firm.
On 106 to 108 FM. On the Newstalk app, powered by Go Loud and smart speakers. This is Newstalk.
It's 4 o'clock. This is Ken Murray. Good afternoon. Hundreds of people gathered in Dublin this afternoon to remember the victims of the Stardust tragedy in 1981. 48 young people died in the nightclub fire in Artane and more than 200 were injured. Former RTE reporter Charlie Bird joined the candlelit vigil in support of families and friends of those who died. Maurice McHugh lost his only daughter in the Stardust fire. He says they want justice and accountability.
All the families on the north side were criminalised as arsonists. And then, that was for 27 years that lasted. And then we were exempted. And then we continued on fighting for justice. And we had, step by step, year by year, So eventually, on the 42nd year, the inquest will open.
Leia Healthcare is increasing its premiums by 4.4% from the 1st of April. The company says premiums will rise by an average of €55 per person. It's the first time in 2 years that Leia has introduced a price increase. Charlie Weston, personal finance editor of the Irish Independent, says medical inflation is contributing to the price hike.
There was pent-up demand which built up during the pandemic when people didn't use their health insurance to have private procedures done. That's now starting to clear, and people are getting procedures carried out. And also medical inflation is a major thing, you know, the cost of new technologies and new medicines. And also just the general cost of living increases as well are having an impact.
New climate plans for Ireland would represent an ethnic cleansing of the agricultural community. That's the dire warning from Independent TD Michael Fitzmaurice in response to new figures from the Environmental Protection Agency published in today's Irish Daily Mail. The report indicates a massive switch away from livestock to bring back bog and forest. The deputy for Roscommon Galway says the plan, if fully executed, is worse than the time of Oliver Cromwell.
This report states very clearly with what would be proposed, you wouldn't be even living in the area, to be quite frank about it. So at least Cromwell didn't mind us living in Connacht. These don't seem to want us to live anywhere. I don't know where they intend us to live, but it is absolutely demoralising to see a report like that coming out.
And that's your news at 4:02.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Make the most of Paddy's weekend with Ryanair low fares to Bologna, Lisbon or Madrid.
This evening will remain generally dry and cloudy. Isolated patches of mist and hill fog may also develop in light southerly breezes. Lowest temperatures of 4 to 7 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through to 5 this evening. There's been a try at the Aviva Stadium. What is the latest? Ireland against France in the Six Nations. Andy Dunn.
Yeah, 4.5 minutes to go. A brilliant try from Gary Ringrose, created by a hungry and incredibly driven Caelan Doris, who managed to carry for them a multitude of times in this half, but carried through a tackle, pumped the legs, and managed to throw a wonderful right-handed 20-yard pass to Ringrose. He had a bit of work to do to finish. He beat two tacklers himself, scored in the corner as the key game-breaking score, one would feel, for this game. It was locked in very close at 25-19. Both teams haven't scored, only 3 points each in the second half. A penalty by Ross Byrne and a drop goal by Thomas Ramos. But with about 8 minutes to go on the clock, we made the breakthrough. What looks like the vital breakthrough now with 3.5 minutes to go. It's Ireland 32, France 19.
There's the Grand Slam on and a bonus point as well. 76 minutes on the watch. 32-19 Ireland lead France. We're with Football Saturday between now and 5. I remember Football and Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Get all the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Text us 53106. This is the League of Ireland preview. Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent, Shane Keegan, the Cobh Ramblers manager, and delighted to be joined by Keith Long, the ex-Bohemians boss. You're very welcome, Keith.
Afternoon, John. How are you?
How's the form?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah.
The League of Ireland start, you were well used to this week. 8 years at Bowes.
Yes, it's unusual to not be involved at this point of the season, where everybody's really looking forward to getting going and getting the season started. The phony war of pre-season is over for all clubs. Obviously, the President Cup game last night, so every club up and down the country will have their ambitions, have their hopes and expectations for the season. And interesting observer at this point, not being involved with a club. So that's different, but really looking forward to the season ahead nonetheless.
What is it like being a League of Ireland manager?
Well, listen, it depends.
Right.
It's a very subjective. I suppose everybody's experiences are different. I was speaking to Shane before we came on air. I had 8 years at Bowes, so 6 of those were in a part-time capacity. So I had to do an 8-hour day before I went into the club, and very often you're ducking and diving in your job to answer phone calls, dealing with players, dealing with the board, or dealing with staff. Getting training sessions planned, all that type of stuff. But it's demanding, it's tough, but it's a very rewarding job. Working with young players, trying to get the best out of people, and getting them to a level where you feel their ability and potential can take them to is very rewarding, very challenging at times, working in difficult circumstances with limited resources, both financial resources and human resources, because, like I said, when I went into Bowes, in 2015. You know, it was very much a part-time club. They come on the back of, you know, nearly going out of existence. You know, they were in heavy debt, so we had to try and put it back in a good footing. Thankfully, we were in a position to do that over a number of years, where we grew the club sustainably. So, you know, in a roundabout way, listen, it's an absolute brilliant and rewarding job. It's a very demanding job. It's a very stressful job, and you have to be committed to it. It's a 24/7 thing. The phone doesn't switch off. You've got to be there for your players. You've got to be there for your staff. You've got to be there for the board. You've got to manage up, manage down the club, and it's you know. Listen, I really enjoyed it. Shane has experienced it. Is obviously, you know, current manager in the league. You know, every club, different challenges, different expectations, and different demands.
Did your relationship with the job change in any way when you then did go full time? You know, or does that actually bring a different type of pressure? Because suddenly this is everything. If you know what I mean.
Well, I suppose I came to the point, Dan, that you know, I had to make a decision for the good of my own health, because working, you know, long days, being away from home a lot. I felt I had to channel all that energy and give complete focus to one thing. Passion. My passion is football, and I've been involved in the game ever since I was a young lad, and it was something that I never thought I would necessarily get into in a full-time capacity. Like I said, I've always managed and coached previous to that in a part-time capacity. So to do that was a big undertaking, was a big decision, a lot of discussions with the club to get me to the point where financially it was viable for me to do so. We were able to come to an agreement, and luckily I was at a good club that was moving forward, that was growing sustainably, that had put reasonable structures in place off the pitch, so that we wouldn't be in a position that we found ourselves in a number of years ago when, like I said, they nearly went out of business. So yes, it was a difficult decision. Did the pressure increase because I'd gone from part-time to full-time? No, you put pressure on yourself to deliver, to be successful. You know, we were successful, you know, relatively speaking, and success at different clubs at different times looks different. You know, we qualified for Europe 2 years running. We got to a cup final. We had our best run in European football a couple of years ago. You know, some great nights in the Aviva. Ultimately, we didn't deliver success in my reign, and let's see if the club going forward, you know, can make that step forward in terms of delivering silverware over the next year or so.
When you talk about the pride, when you see Evan Ferguson, Dawson Devoy, Promise O'Mashare, Andy Lyons now playing in England, you must be tracking their progress. A lot of interest.
Yeah, well, it gives you great satisfaction to see the players like that doing so well, and you know, one of our way of operating was to try and attract the best young players in Dublin, in the country, to a club like Bohemians, because we had to do it out of necessity. You know, we didn't have huge budgets. You had to think a little bit smarter in terms of recruitment. We had a brilliant partnership with St. Kevin's Boys that opened up doors for us in terms of getting high quality young players into the club. But we also had other means of getting players in. We got Danny Grant in from non-league. We brought in other players from different clubs, giving them an opportunity. We signed players with a view to playing in our first team. We could give them that opportunity. And like I said, it was out of necessity. We didn't have big budgets, we didn't have big money to attract some of the more senior players. So, you know, it was a good fit for many years for young players to come to us. And you mentioned those names: Promise, Evan Ferguson, Andy Lyons, Dawson Devoy doing so well at NK Dons at the moment. Yeah, we can all look back. It's not just me. I was the manager. Trevor Crowley was my brilliant assistant for many years. Derek Pender, coaches at the club that would have helped and developed the players. Craig Sexton over the years. You know, all had a huge part to play in bringing these players to the fore.
Sorry, just got to interrupt. Full time at the Aviva. Ireland have beaten France in the Six Nations. 2 wins from 2. Andy Dunn.
Yeah, really a tremendous result. It was certainly in the balance in the second half. Approximately 20 minutes of that half, the score was locked in at 25-19. It looked every bit like it was a tense, edgy affair. Both sides were littered with mistakes. I think both sides were tired, and it did have the feel that someone was going to get a breakthrough vital score, whether that was to be France and sneak into a lead, or it was Ireland to confirm a win, and it turned out to be Ireland. A really well taken try. Caelan Doris caught the ball in midfield, managed to pump his legs through a number of tacklers and throw a wonderful, while being tackled, wonderful right to left 15-20 yard pass to Ringrose, who had a bit of work to do. Managed to bustle over, beating 2 French defenders, and that was the significant score in the game. Ultimately, Ireland outscored France 4 tries to 1, but France were dangerous throughout, particularly on the counter-attack, particularly when play broke into the less structured format of the game. So it was never a result, despite the 13-point win, it was never a result that was secure right until the end. Ultimately a deserved win for Ireland, but France showed plenty of power, and possibly the most significant news is that Ireland did that for 35 minutes of the game without Johnny Sexton, without Gibson Park, without Tyke Furlong, Dan Sheehan, Andrew Porter. So key players across that starting team, maybe up to 7 or 8 weren't on the field for that last hour. So it shows huge strength and depth, and very, very encouraging for Ireland.
Okay, great stuff, Andy. Thanks so much for your stuff today. 32 points to 19. 32-19, Ireland have beaten France in the Six Nations. 2 wins from 2 bonus point victories. The Grand Slam is on. Italy away, Scotland away, and then England at home on St. Patrick's weekend. We're continuing our look ahead to the League of Ireland season with Keith Long, the Expos boss, in studio with us, with Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent, and Shane Keegan, the Cobh Ramblers manager. Dan, you want to come in there?
Well, actually, just thinking of an Irish France team, I mean, Evan Ferguson in a different sport could be involved next month. But I'm just thinking, Keith, I remember when Evan came on against Chelsea and there was a big fuss around that, and a bit of a throwaway around it, like, what about the principle of having like a 14-year-old, or when I think he was involved in another game, was it in Derry? Did he travel up at you sort of around that time as well? What were your feelings around that time? I mean, I know it's easy to say it now because he's turned out to be like a success, but could you just see it, like when he walked into your dressing room first or onto the pitch first, you were like, yeah? Yes.
That's the short answer to the question. You knew Evan was star quality from the first time you laid eyes on him on a football pitch. Yes, there was some commentary. We took a little bit of flack at the time. It didn't really faze us in any way, shape or form, faze me, because we felt it was the right thing to do for Evan. We didn't do it to add value to the player, add a couple of zeros onto his value.
The deal was done already, wasn't it?
The deal was done. Although, had we have chosen to put him into that game for that reason, I think as a football club, you're well within your rights to do so. Evan was and is, an exceptional young man. Brilliant character, great temperament for the game. Comes from a brilliant family and has a great support system around him. So, what separates Evan, in my view, to many of the other players that I've worked with, and I've worked with some talented players, at various levels of the game. Some are playing, they're trained in the UK. Some are playing in the Premier Division here in Ireland. So, Evan, his mentality is different. He's a winner, and absolutely will do everything within his power to become a Premier League footballer, to become an established senior international goal scorer, international footballer for Ireland, and he's driven to succeed. But he has the potential and he has the ability. We can't put too much pressure on him. No, I am always conscious of that. Yeah. But at that time, though, did you and Trevor or the rest of your staff have to have big conversations with him around, okay, we might throw you in here? Because I know he was involved in a couple of league games, and albeit I know it was closed doors football, it was a slightly different time, but was there any big chats, or were you always very confident about his mentality that he wouldn't be fazed by whatever you sort of pitched his way? Primarily we had conversations with obviously Evan, of course, but his dad Barry, who would be very influential and being an ex-pro footballer himself, understands what's important for his son and what his son requires. And if he didn't think he was ready to play, we would have accepted that. I think if you ask Evan if he was sitting here today, he was probably wondering why I didn't use him more, utilise him a little bit more. I think that's the way Evan is. We used him a little bit sparingly. We were conscious of the fact that we were only going to have him for a short time, that we could never necessarily build a team around him. He was never going to be with us up until 18 years of age. So we were always conscious that we'd only have a short window working with Evan, and it was a pleasure to deal with him, to work with him, to see him, and it's absolutely fantastic to see him do so well in the Premier League, and hopefully that will have an impact, like you said, for future Irish international teams.
He's on the Brighton bench today, actually just on for Dennis Undav. So they're goalless with Crystal Palace, Arsenal 0, Brentford 0. Arsenal find it difficult to break Brentford down here at the Emirates Stadium. Obviously, we're looking at the title race as well. Fulham 1, Nottingham Forest 0. So the goal by Willian. Leicester 3, Spurs 1. Iheanacho making it 3-1 to the Foxes. Southampton 1, Wolves 0. Nathan Collins on the Wolves bench today with Wolves down to 10 men. West Ham 1, Chelsea 1 as a result from earlier on. Bournemouth and Newcastle kick off at 5:30. So it's hard to I suppose be a fortune teller, isn't it, when it comes to these players? They're doing well at the moment. Some of them can go into the stratosphere. You just don't really know, though, for certain where Evan or Dawson or Andy or Promise will end up in the game.
That's right, for sure, and luck plays a huge part in that. They have to remain injury free. They have to go to a club with maybe the talent pathway. In Evan's case, it was clear. They'd done it before with other players coming through. They have a clear structure in how they operate. The current manager, when he was recruited, the conversations would have been very much aligned in terms of looking from within the academy first for players before you go outside. Obviously, all the Premier League clubs, including Brighton, look at emerging markets, looking to get young players into the club. And Evan, obviously, that was part of the reason why he ended up at Brighton and why he chose that route, and it's obviously paid dividends for him breaking into the team so young. So other players like Promise going to League One, with the physical attributes, the pace and the power that Promise has, that lends itself for a league as attritional as a League One. Andy Lyons is where Andy has ended up with the championship, the season that he had last year with Shamrock Rovers, is absolutely fantastic. And it brings me back to, when Andy was 17, he did an interview with one of the in-house reporters at Bohemians, and, he was asked about his ambitions, and, plan A for Andy was to become a professional footballer. And he was asked about a plan B, and plan B for Andy was to make plan A work. So it gives you an indication of his mentality, and it gives you an insight into the drive of the player. He was proven correct to move to Shamrock Rovers from Bohemians last year, because he had a fantastic year. That's difficult for some of Bohemian supporters to hear, and obviously we would have loved Andy to stay at the club. Last year, it proved he proved very difficult to replace, but he had a fantastic year with Shamrock Rovers, got lots of goals. Now he's playing in Championship football, and he's scoring goals this week, I think, for Blackpool against Huddersfield. So fantastic for these boys to go and to challenge themselves at the highest level that they can.
You spoke about the element of that luck plays in it, which is, the flip side of that, when you don't get the bit of luck. Like Danny Grant was one that I was really excited by when he went across, and I thought he'd rip it up, and it just shows with the injuries he's picked up, it just hasn't kicked on for him, Keith, has it?
Well, Danny was exceptional in our league, and has the attributes in terms of his pace to and that's why he was signed for Huddersfield. Yeah. So yes, but he's been, very, very unfortunate with injuries, the hamstring injuries. Players, the way Danny's built is the fact that he's so explosive. Mm-hmm. Those hamstrings the fast twitch fibres,
injury prone, aren't they?
Very, very injury prone. So he's susceptible to hamstring injuries. He was exposed very, very quickly to a very hard-working regime. The manager, I can't think of his name, Cordoba, who's moved on to West Brom, very demanding manager. He come from League of Ireland football into a championship environment, broke down very quickly. I think he had a grade 4 hamstring strain within a couple of months of arriving into Huddersfield. So luck and injuries play a huge part in any player's development. He's on loan at Harrogate at the moment. I think he's playing in the 10, sometimes in the 8 in a League 2 club. So that'll be good for Danny.
The one other one I'd throw at you as well that we would have had a small bit of overlap on. What did you make of Georgie, and how do you think Georgie will do?
Georgie Kelly, of course, yeah. Should have been
What a brilliant fella, isn't he?
Listen, you can't help but smile when you mention Georgie's name
100%.
because he's such an absolute gent. And what a human being. And I know people talk about it's people first and the values and culture and all this type of stuff, but Georgie's just a fantastic guy, a really clever guy, highly intelligent, will have a great career outside of football, but very focused and understands what he wants. Took his time about coming to Bohs because we were after him, as you may know, for many years. Prior to him going to Dundalk, while he was at Dundalk, not necessarily getting the game time he would have hoped for. He went on loan to Stevie O'Donnell St. Pat's at that time. Didn't quite work out for him.
Didn't settle like there either, no.
You know, we felt that Georgie would complement how we tried to play with wingers, getting service into the box, and we felt we would supply him with the supply lines to go and score goals. He didn't quite hit the ground running for the first phase of games, you know, got a couple of goals. We played Dundalk at home, you know, just after COVID, our crowds were starting to come back, and I think we won 5 or 6-0, which was, you know, unusual for us at that time to beat a team of Dundalk's calibre. But Georgie just scored 4 goals, and the season lifted off. I think he got 26 goals the season before last, and got the move to the Championship club at Rotherham, and they love him over there too. So hopefully he'll continue to, you know, make a mark over there also.
Yeah, I mean, just speaking, I mean, we are talking about a league season preview here, but naturally the discussion pivots round to like all these players that have gone like in the last couple of years, and we could keep going. We're talking about ones that you've worked with, but we could talk about others as well who you haven't worked with. I'm just kind of wondering, like, how has the league changed during your involvement with it? And I go back to you as a player in the 90s when I don't think there was too many 16 or 17 year olds on the pitch in matches, and there would have been a feeling, rightly or wrongly, that, you know, if you were still at home at a certain time, you didn't go away. There would have been a period of time where like lads going from here to clubs in England were very, very rare. You can think of like Brendan Markey and sort of Pat Scully. You can think of a couple, but now you could pick probably 30, 40 from the last couple of years. I mean, how different is the landscape now? And like looking ahead to this season, is that just an inevitable part of it now that we're going to talk about Sam Curtis, or we can talk about, we can, you know, take your pick of sort of young players around the country who this time next year will not be here. We sort of know that. Ferguson, like it's a changed league, isn't it now?
Well, yeah, you've answered the question there. Yeah. I think, Dan, you know, when I played League of Ireland football, it was an old man's league, you know. Very rare were there young players. Of course there was young players that didn't go away that were good enough to play League of Ireland. They would stay, they would try and get into teams. Some clubs would obviously bring players through to their first team quite quickly. You know, I'll make an example. I went to the UK, I went to Stoke City at 17. Trevor Crowley, my ex-assistant manager, stayed and played for Drogheda United. He was playing men's football. I was playing reserve team football or youth team football. I went backwards. Trevor moved forwards in his career and had a good career in League of Ireland, and it took me a while to adapt coming back. So it very much has transitioned from an old man's league, or the perception of an old man's league, to a young players league, a developmental league where players are coming in at you know, and obviously with League of Ireland clubs taking over, you know, effectively from where schoolboy clubs have left off.
Much more responsibility now.
There's much more responsibility on clubs to bring players through. Younger players are coming through and being not necessarily fast tracked. They're good enough to play in your first team, so they're going to play in your first team. Managers will not refuse. Obviously, there's expectations at different clubs. Some clubs have a philosophy of bringing young players through, and always try and supplement their first team squads with good young players. Other clubs will need to deliver silverware, and they probably trust a little bit more experience.
Arsenal have scored 1-0, and it is Leandro Trossard, the new signing from Brighton, who's got the goal against Brentford. 66 minutes on the watch. Arsenal 1, Brentford 0. The Premier League leaders are ahead at the Emirates, and Brighton have scored. Solly March 1-0 up away to Crystal Palace. Fulham 1, Nottingham Forest 0. Leicester 3, Tottenham 1. Southampton 1, Wolves 0. Just in terms of, Dan, I suppose Joe Biden gave the State of the Union during the week in the States. What's the state of the nation around the league? In terms of public interest, are there more people interested in going to matches? Is there more popularity around the competition?
Yeah, I mean, like the easiest measure of that, I suppose, is attendance.
Yeah.
Like, attendances were up last year and dramatically up, and like I suppose Keith would notice, like there's some clubs where like attendances would have been higher if their capacity was bigger as well too. So like the actual attendance figures don't even reflect the number of people that could have gone to games. Now, there's no doubt there's been a bit of a post-COVID boom. I think clubs in the last couple of years have got much more aware of that they are more than just a team of 11 players that goes out and plays at the week, that they need to be a sort of a club around it. I think one aspect of the national underage leagues as well is that there's probably increased the number of teams at every club and people around the club who feel an affiliation to the club, and I think that has contributed. And like, it's a younger environment when you go to stadiums. I'm sure like the lads can, the crowds, the profile of the spectators, and depending on what age you are, like anyone listening to this or participating in this, people from a particular generation like might have grown up at a time when maybe the League of Ireland was the old man's league that Keith describes it as. And again, it would have been hard to maybe see where the League of Ireland stands within Irish football, because it was almost so divorced from the national team. It sort of existed on an island away from it. Whereas now, as Keith sort of mentions, I mean, like, you can go to games, you will go to games this season. I mean, you will definitely go to games this season and like see some of the most important players for Irish football in the next 10, 12 years, which is a massive change. It's a huge change. And maybe like there's a younger generation that are maybe less cynical towards the league than maybe people of a particular age who sort of will always remember it as being, the League of Ireland, which sort of exists in a particular box and it's perceived in a different way. And again, as I said, some clubs have been way more alert in terms of just pushing themselves and pushing the experience, and there's so far to go. I mean, I would go mad about facilities and like at a time when we've increased interest, yet often the product that we deliver up in terms of the overall match night experience is still like substandard. For what? Because there's a huge appetite, I think, there for people to give it a go and be open-minded towards trying it. But naturally, you have to keep them. And like, I think we're in a good place at the moment for people being open-minded to having a look and seeing what's there. The next step, I suppose, is to build on it, and in some cases, quite building it, like build stadiums that make people want to come back and experience them. So, like, I'm doing this job like a long time now, and I'm sure if you played back a preview from like 10, 15, 20 years ago, you might have said very similar things about facilities. We need to do more about this. We need to do more about that. I do think there's been an upturn the last couple of years. This is encouraging. I think in Dublin in particular, has been a significant change. But there's still a way to travel with it. Like, I think the league's in a reasonable place, but obviously we're talking about like a lot of these young players that are leaving. There's a lot of players leaving, and naturally there's question marks over the structures in terms of having the depth of talent to sort of justify or to be able to cope with that sort of drain of talent every 12 months. And like, that's part of the next evolution, and we're now recruiting more players from outside the country.
That's what I was going to say.
The profile of the league is changing in so many ways.
Unfortunately, the drain of talent at the moment seems to be our best young Irish players leaving and being replaced by a huge amount of players from either England or across Europe, which, you can argue the pros and cons of that, but there's no doubt there's a huge amount of current signings for the coming season that are players that we know little to nothing about, which is in itself is going to make things interesting.
I think there's something. I did a bit of work before I came in today, so I think there's something like 12 players coming in from emerging markets. I want to, if I put that phrase on it, markets where Irish clubs have never really been to before to recruit players. Why is that happening? So, we have to look at those. Like, so clubs are operating very much in a diminished market here in Ireland because the players, all the best players are at the best clubs under contracts.
Yeah.
Okay. And of a certain profile that are going to win you leagues or challenge for silverware are locked into contracts at League of Ireland clubs. Is there a quality, the amount and the quality that's required coming through our academy system to replace the brain drain, replace those players that are moving away? Because unfortunately, Dan, it's the nature of football that players will want to test and challenge themselves at the highest level. And with respect to our league, It is a young developmental league. Players will always look to go to the UK or perhaps abroad, which is becoming, more of a trend potentially for young players because they can go away slightly younger than
Brexit,
18 with Brexit. So there's an element of risk always in every signature and every signing that you make, be it a home-based player, be a player coming back from the UK, or be a foreign import. And we'll see.
You mentioned America. People may not be aware of this. Generally, I think there's 4 Estonian internationals have come to the league over the winter, and there was one here already last year. So people will look at the international, the international break in March in a couple of months' time. Whoever Estonia are playing, you'll be looking at a squad with maybe 4 or 5 League of Ireland players in it. Cork have signed 3 lads from Sweden. It's very different. It's, as I said, in many ways the League of Ireland was a league that just existed on its own, away from everywhere, and now it's sort of been subsumed into this wider ecosystem where it's sort of part of the English ladder, in the sense that a lot of players are going there. Clubs seem more willing to loan players to Ireland from there, but it's now been opened up to, through various means. There's players around Europe are suddenly thinking, I might go to Ireland and try it out.
So again, we have to understand the reason why that's happening. So clubs are looking outside of, like I said, traditional markets like the UK, looking for players, looking for better quality players, looking for better value in players.
Value is probably a question.
So currently, I feel there's inflated wage demands across the league at this moment for players, and players are absolutely entitled to get their value, what they feel is good value, and get maximise the potential of any contract. But clubs there's no doubt about it, are looking for better value, higher quality players. But that brings risks, and the challenges to bring in overseas talent in a window. You get 2 chances per year to influence your squad in and out. And, it is a risk, it is a gamble, but maybe the clubs feel that it's a worthwhile gamble, willing to take. What I would say is, looking at the signings that have come in from outside of, let's say, the traditional markets, only 2 of them have been loans. So, managers have obviously done their due diligence. They've looked at players. It opens up a different debate around structures of football clubs, recruitment managers, director of footballs, all that type of stuff. Because as a manager, you can be, become a specialist in generalism, if you get me, a generalist specialist, or a jack of all trades, because you're trying to do everything, So listen, it'll be interesting to see how and if the influx of foreign imports, add to the league.
You look at the shift in power from Shamrock Rovers, or from Dundalk to Shamrock Rovers. That pretty much coincided with the Dundalk's ownership model deciding to go after foreign players rather than proven League of Ireland players. And it accelerated Dundalk's demise, and which obviously accelerated the rise of Shamrock Rovers. I mean, I'm sure they couldn't believe their luck, but I understand going after value outside the league, but I still think that the heart and soul of your team, the core of your team, needs to be proven League of Ireland players. They don't necessarily need to be Irish, but I do think they need to be proven League of Ireland players.
Big goal in the Premier League. Brentford have equalised away to Arsenal. Ivan Toney.
There's no danger of a VAR thing here, John. They were slowing it down initially for a potential offside in the build-up. It looks to be fine for the goal. It probably looks like it's going to be okay here.
Yeah, Arsenal won, Brentford won.
Are they having a mini check?
Yeah. They are. Yeah.
It's for the start. It's at the start of the passage of play. There's a ball into the box, and I suppose you have to decide if this player affected what happened next.
I think they're looking at the other one, Dan. Is the fella behind him offside anyway?
Yeah.
The wonderful world of VAR checks on a live radio show.
Offside, isn't he?
He does look
just let you know, Wolves equalised against Southampton 1-1 there. Jan Bednarek with an own goal. Leicester 3, Spurs 1, Fulham 1, Nottingham Forest 0. Crystal Palace 1, Brighton 1. James Tompkins equalising for the Eagles at Selhurst Park earlier. It ended West Ham 1, Chelsea 1. Ireland have beaten France with a bonus point in the Six Nations by 32 points to 19. In the Premier League at 5:30, it's Bournemouth against Newcastle. We're still waiting for this to resolve itself, so I'll just go through the championship scores. Blackpool 0, Rotherham 0. It's Bristol City 1, Norwich 0. Burnley 3, Preston 0. It's Cardiff 1, Middlesbrough 2. Coventry 1, Luton 1. QPR 0, Millwall 1. Sheffield United 2, Swansea 0. Stoke 0, Hull 0. The goal stands: Arsenal 1, Brentford 1. Ivan Toney.
So I don't know, it's very hard for people listening. There was an Arsenal player with an outstretched hand at the start of it, and you're waiting to see the line that they draw now. There was obviously a few phases to it, but they've scored. So it's 1-0. Yeah.
Fascinating ahead of the Man City Aston Villa game tomorrow, which we got live here and News Talking Off the Ball. We also have Leeds and Man United. Sunderland 0, Reading 0, Watford 1, Blackburn 1 in the Championship, Wigan 0, Huddersfield 0. And in Scotland, remember Celtic placing Mirren 5 in the Scottish Cup. So just in terms of the season looking ahead, is it Shamrock Rovers Derry, lads? Is it when we're talking about a title winner here?
Just
to be honest about it.
Yeah, I think it's very, very hard to see beyond that, John. Rovers are now well and truly the established powerhouse. They've been a fantastic team over the last couple of years, not just in terms of their success, but to be fair, they're very easy on the eye as well. I think they're a really, really great side in terms of how they go about it. Look, it helps that there's a few pound there, there's absolutely no doubt. Plenty of money in the club, but Derry are also now in a very financially good position, and that's allowed them to make some big signings over the last couple of seasons. I think adding Rory Higgins was a key part of the jigsaw for them as well. A really clever move. I've said before, he was an extremely impressive individual during the brief time I had him with at Dundalk. You just talk football with him forever. Both as an impressive individual, both as a person and as a football manager or a football man, for want of a better way of phrasing it. And they look good. They look very, very good. They've made a couple of good signings, Dan. Adam O'Reilly. Adam O'Reilly is a good one. And then has the Ollie O'Neill one happened? There's a lot of talk about that earlier in the week.
And they had a guy from Ipswich who came off the bench last night, Matt Ward.
And then Colm Whelan, obviously. I spoke Colm, the League of Ireland launch was on during the week, JD, and I spoke Colm at it now. I think it's probably kind of 4 to 6 weeks before he's going to be fully fit and ready to go, but he is a fantastic young fella, and I thought the one thing that Derry, I remember watching the Derry Rovers games in particular, I thought it really highlighted McGonigal was a great goal scorer. He's a great fella to offer a threat in behind, but the difference between McGonigal and Gaffney in the build-up play for the two teams was night and day, and I think Colm can give them those goals potentially at Derry, while also being a really important player in their build-up play. So it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, Colm is interesting. Like, he probably would have joined Lincoln last year if he didn't get a serious long-term injury. He was in the Ireland 21 squad. And I think Derry sort of stole a little bit of a march on Rovers over the winter and made an assertive move when maybe people thought he was still going to Lincoln, and Derry got in there very quickly. And to answer your question, John, I think that is, yes, I think it is going to be those two. I think St. Pat's had a good run in the second half of last season. I think they have the potential to be decent again. Dundalk, you're again looking at players they've brought in from outside the league and you're not sure of their level. And I think, Bows have recruited extensively. Sligo, again, they've lost the classic recurring team. Like, they've lost the top scorer in the league, Aidan Keena, to League One. They've brought in a Faroe Islands international striker yesterday to replace him. So how's that going to work out? Like, you just, it's very hard to sort of assess it.
With your managerial hat on, Keith, Rory Gaffney, Johnny Kenny, how are they accommodated in the same side? Because Rory Gaffney has been the outstanding player of the season. John Kenny was superb before going away. It's hard to see either of those two fellas on the bench. So how do they end up in the same team?
Well, I think Rory has to get fit first. He had an outstanding season. I believe he's injured at this moment in time, so that's why he didn't feature last night. So Johnny Kenny adds a different dynamic to the Shamrock Rovers team. So fitting the two of them in, Rovers obviously play a system that can play with two strikers. Very often they play with 2 10s behind a number 9. There will be games. There's no doubt that Stephen will fit and complement those players and play them together. Whether that's in the top games or in some of the European games will remain to be seen. I think at the infancy last night was the first game. Stephen probably hasn't settled on his best 11 just yet, albeit that he probably knows every single, he probably has 9 or 10 of the positions nailed down. So, but maybe sometimes with players coming into the building, you work with them a little bit more closer. They develop relationships with other players, and they might just strike it off. So you just don't know. They could both play in the same team. Whether that happens, it remains to be seen. We're talking about a Derry Rovers dominated campaign. 13 points I think is the differential last year between the two clubs. Looking at Derry City last night, they were very impressive. For me, the most stable clubs in terms of recruitment are the clubs that are going to be most successful. So you got a situation where Shamrock Rovers add 2 or 3 players every year because they built a foundation over a number of years. Stephen was given time at the outset to develop that and to implement the strategy and vision for the football club, and Shamrock Rovers need to be given huge credit for that. Derry City, I think they've only brought 4 players in. Yes, there's more players to possibly come in, but they've got a stable squad. They've got an experienced squad. They've got league winners, and it looks to me, not on the evidence of last night, that there's a mindset shift in that dressing room. It's full of league winners. Remember, a lot of those players came from Dundalk, haven't won league titles. They won the FAI Cup last year, but there's a mind shift there that they can go closer this year with Shamrock Rovers.
Got to take a break. Keith Long, Shane Keegan and Dan McDonnell on Football Saturday. Remember, folks, as well, the Braeburn Coffee is the official coffee partner of OTB. Start your morning with a Braeburn coffee, whether you prefer a classic cappuccino or an iced oat milk latte. Braeburn's got something for everyone, available at Apple Green locations nationwide. Our Arsenal wobbling in this title race. Brentford have equalised 1-1 now into the closing stages at the Emirates. We're back after this.
Football on Off the Ball
with Sky. Catch Leeds versus Man United tomorrow on Super Sunday. Live only on Sky Sports.
This is News Talk. Screen Time with John Fardy.
This week on the show, we remember all that Burt Bacharach gave to the cinema. I chat to the director of a controversial new documentary all about the pro-nuclear movement called Atomic Hope. As the Dublin International Film Festival launches, we speak to its festival director, Gráinne Humphreys. Plus, the one and only Pat Short chats about his favourite film, as well as his acting life and times.
Screen Time with John Fardy.
Listen and subscribe to the podcast now, or tune in this evening from 6
on News Talk.
Here's why you should be with Clear Mobile.
Serious deal. Simple as. Great coverage.
Exactly. What a good time to get your mobile from a pretty smart $12.99 a month. Plus, you get unlimited calls, texts and 4G data. Enjoy savings on your mobile plan. Offer ends on the 28th of February. Clear Mobile. You clear yet? 30-day contract. Activation fee and fair usage applies. Max data speed 5 megabits per second. $12.99 subject to eligibility. Offer ends 28th of February 2023. See clearmobile.ie for terms.
Dreaming of summer in France? Let Stena Line take you there on board Stena Vision or Stena Horizon. Unwind in our pure Nordic spa. Let the kids have fun in Happy World. Relax in your own private cabin or suite. Take your furry friends too in one of our pet-friendly cabins. With the most sailings between Roeselare and Cherbourg, get set for summer in France. Book today with a €100 deposit at stenaline.ie.
Harvey Norman are your home appliance specialists with great deals on Samsung, like the Samsung Black Caviar 11 kg washing machine with EcoBubble technology, now $1129. Dry your laundry more efficiently with the Samsung Black Caviar 9 kg heat pump tumble dryer, now $1099. Or get the Samsung Airdresser dryer cabinet with jet steam, now $2359. Plus up to 18 months interest-free finance terms available. Harvey Norman, your home appliance specialists.
Go!
The sale you've been searching for is back. Switch to Virgin Media now and enjoy 500 meg ultra-fast reliable broadband and TV 360 for just €54 a month for 12 months. Sale ends soon. Switch in-store or at virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media, bring on amazing.
T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie, subject to availability. New customers only, 12-month contract. 500 meg broadband and big TV, €54 a month for 12 months, €99 thereafter. Ends February 15th, 2023.
Stay in the know on the go with the Indo Daily podcast.
That night, it was explained to me how it worked. So he took out a little small pot of amphetamines, he took out a syringe, he cut the syringe down so it was as small as possible with the amphetamine in it.
Esther woke up one August day, August the 14th, to find an electric blanket was on fire at the end of the bed and she hadn't put it on the bed.
The Indo Daily podcast. Stories that fit into your day. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
You may think you know driving, but you don't know Nissan e-Power. An electric motor that brings you the performance and response on the road that you demand. Charged by a petrol engine as you drive.
The thrill and economy of electric driving without ever having to plug in. And it's exclusive to Nissan. Who said you have to plug in to drive electric? Find the drive you've been looking for with e-Power. Now available in the new Nissan Qashqai. A unique electrifying experience now unplugged. Nissan. Innovation that excites.
In as little as 3 minutes, you could die from smoke inhalation. A working smoke alarm gives you a chance to get out. It might be the sound that saves your life. Test your smoke alarms regularly, remove obvious dangers, and have an escape route planned. Visit firesafetyweek.ie for more fire safety tips. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Banking can make you feel a bit. So why not switch to a provider that helps you take control of your finances? The On Post Money current account lets you see exactly what's going on with your money and gives you control with the tap of a button. Switch with the On Post Money app or pop into one of our 900 plus post offices. You don't even need to make an appointment. Take back power over your money today. On Post is authorised by the Minister for Finance to provide payment services and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland in the provision of such services.
This is an emergency appeal from Concern Worldwide. Families in Turkey and Syria are struggling to survive in the aftermath of two devastating earthquakes, and freezing temperatures are making their situation even more desperate. Please help Concern provide blankets and shelter to those most in need. Visit concern.net today and give what you can. Thank you.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Don't miss Liverpool versus Everton in the Merseyside Derby on Monday Night Football. Live only on Sky Sports.
This is News Talk.
And welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through to 5. Football Saturday, football on Off the Ball, brought to you by Sky. Get all the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Text number 53106. Joined in studio by the ex-Bohemians boss Keith Long, the Cobh Ramblers manager Shane Keegan, and Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent. Looking ahead to the League of Ireland season, Arsenal won, Brentford won in the Premier League. Arsenal, I suppose, they're getting a little bit, I don't know, given that Brentford came into this one beaten in 9 and 7th in the table. Maybe that's harsh on Arsenal, but Arsenal obviously lost Everton last week and they're looking for that winner. I'm conscious of time, folks. Dan, Damien, Duff, we're talking about people going to the games, interested in storylines, interested in good players, and Duff obviously has a star quality. How's he getting on with Shelbourne at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose they had a good season last year. I think the big thing to note with Chels is that the owners of Southampton were looking at going in there, making significant investment, didn't come to pass. I think Shell's have been looking for other investment, hasn't come to pass as of yet. They've recruited, reasonably well without necessarily sort of making any shockwave signings. And I just sort of watching the Shells thing generally. I think they're obviously, Damien has signed a lot of young players there who they probably feel that can improve again. That they over the course of the year they can maybe get better again, and they probably have a core of a side that's still there from last season. So I think they'll be fine. They'll be mid-table. I think it's a push now to see them breaking into the European picture. I wouldn't be necessarily predicting that. There's still massive interest. There's no doubt. There's a sort of a certain fascination with a sort of a household name being involved with the league. But I think maybe there might have been hopes that Chelsea might have pushed on a bit in some ways over the winter. It hasn't happened. And in this league, you can talk about the sort of ability of managers and so on, but clearly the structures and the finances and the well-being of the club will have a big say on how things go. And Sheds have brought in some good players, and who other clubs would have wanted. I'm not saying they're penny pinching. They've signed some players like Matty Smith and people who other clubs would have liked, but just maybe the winter there maybe hasn't gone in the way that people might have envisaged it panning out in September, October.
Leicester 4, Spurs 1 now. Harvey Barnes with the 4th goal for the Foxes. Wolves have taken the lead 2-1 away to Southampton. João Gomez. Fulham 2, Nottingham Forest 0 now. Manor Solomon. Palace 1, Brighton 1, Arsenal 1, Brentford 1. Keith Long, your hopes here I suppose for the league for this season, but also the coming season, is facilities the big thing? Is having a better experience for the public and also the players themselves?
Of course it is. It's one of the things that has held the football back in this country for many, many years. Like Dan said, you can go on for an age and an eternity. Many League of Ireland clubs have not been able to improve their facilities due to a lack of resources. You look at Tallaght Stadium, and it's not perfect, but it's got 4 stands now. I think the 4th stand is going up. It's and it's impressive. And it's impressive if you're trying to attract players into a club. I went into Dalymount in 2014, 2015. And there was plans for a redeveloped Dalymount. Those plans are still, and obviously they've gone through a number of set of plans, so they're still very much up in the air. So those projects need to take off. Ballybuffet, Dalymount Park. Infrastructure needs to improve up and down the country to attract more people into the grounds. There's an undercurrent, there's a subculture, there's popularity in the league at the moment. It's cool and it's hip to be involved with a club in your community, and we've got to capitalise on that, but we can only do that by improving facilities all round.
Okay, in terms of the winners, Dan, who's to win the league?
Yeah, I'm sort of tempted to go for Derry. I'd probably just go for Shamrock Rovers. I think Rovers, they've tried to add a certain type of change, a few different options in attack and change their profile of their team, and Derry actually look reasonably stable in some ways. So I think they'll push them very close, but I still think I'll go for Rovers for the 4 in a row.
Player of the year?
If he stays fit, I think Neil Farrugia could have a big year for Shamrock Rovers.
And top scorer?
Top scorer? Oh, that's a tough one. Some people seem to think Jonathan Afolabi at Bows, if he clicks, could be the player. He could be a long shot.
With the best of luck with Cobh Ramblers, Shane, who will win the Premier Division?
Yeah, Rovers in short.
And player of the year?
I'll go with Jake Mulroney. Pats, big new signing for them.
Okay, and top scorer?
I'll go with the bookies' favourite, Johnny Kenny. Okay,
and Keith, we'll hope to see you involved in the game soon. And who are you going to pick for the League of Ireland title? Rovers?
Shamrock Rovers.
And player of the year?
The lads have picked both. I think Jake Mulroney is a great signing for St. Pat's.
Okay, right. And maybe top scorer?
Afolabi has the potential and ability to get goals for Bohemians this year.
Okay, well, thank you for coming in. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And Shane, thank you and best of luck.
Cheers, JD.
We'll catch you along the way. And Dan, thanks as always.
No worries.
For the contribution this afternoon on Football Saturday. If you want to get the podcast, folks, check it out on the OTB Sports Network, on the Go Loud app as well. Just letting you know, there's 93 minutes gone at the Emirates Stadium. It is Arsenal 1, Brentford 1 in the Premier League. What else is happening elsewhere? Well, it's Crystal Palace 1, Brighton 1, Fulham 2, Nottingham Forest 0. It is Leicester 4, Spurs 1 and Southampton 1, Wolves 2. All of these games in stoppage time now in the Championship. Blackpool 0, Rotherham 0, latest. Bristol City 1, Norwich 0. It is finished. Burnley 3, Preston 0. Cardiff 1, Middlesbrough 3, latest. All these games now latest scores. Coventry 1, Luton 1, QPR 1, Millwall 2, Sheffield United 3, Swansea 0, Stoke 0, Hull 0, Sunderland 1, Reading 0. It is Watford 1, Blackburn Rovers 1 and Wigan 1, Huddersfield 0. Remember, Celtic kick off at 5:30 against St Mirren in the Scottish Cup. Ireland have done it in the rugby. 32 points to 19 win and a bonus point over France at the Aviva Stadium. 2 from 2 going now, hopefully, for the Grand Slam. We've got to leave it there. Don't forget, we're back tomorrow 1 to 7 here on Off the Ball on News Talk. Joe Malloy in the chair. We're showcasing 2 live and exclusive commentary games in the Premier League. Richie McCormack and Kenny Cunningham are providing the call in the match between Leeds and Man United from Allen Road. Then Nathan Murphy and Vinnie Perth describing Man City's game against Aston Villa from the Etihad Stadium. There'll also be a review of Ireland's Six Nations game with France with Fiona Hayes. That's all on the FM. Also the Sunday papers across our digital and social channels from 11:30. Be sure to join us tomorrow for some great commentary and conversation. If you missed any of OTB Football Saturday with Mark Lawrenson, Dan McDonnell, Shane Keegan and Keith Long, or the interview with Hannah Looney on the new Camogie season, you can find the podcasts on the OTB Sports app, on the Go Loud network, or be sure to listen back wherever you get your pods. Thanks for listening to us on your radio across the country here on News Talk today. We'll speak tomorrow at 1. Bye-bye.
Give him a ball and he out of grass. He'll give you a move for the perfect pass.